Hey there folks, welcome to another hobby update for September 2020. So these are coming around really fast these days. Feels like time is flying. Anyway, before we get into what I've painted and what projects I've been working on this month, just want to say thanks to everyone who's been commenting and watching these videos. It's actually quite inspirational and motivational when you see people enjoying what you're doing and commenting and engaging. um, it kind of spurs you on. I mean, I do this for a living, painting miniatures and stuff like that. But finding time to paint stuff for yourself on the side is can be quite hard. But these videos and updates and stuff are really helping. So thanks a lot. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get straight to what I've been working on. So I started the first project, which is my Zulus. This is the easiest one, as they all roughly the same sort of thing. As you can see here, I've got a huge horde of them painted now. There's about 50 Zulus painted here, including the leader. You can see obviously the back ones, they're not quite done yet. Obviously I've got to finish the basing and the highlighting and stuff, but from last episode, where I only had 2 full units painted, I now have 3 full units painted. And I say units, I'm referring to line rampant squad unit size, so 12 models per unit. But I'm also going to be using these in the men who would be kings, and there you need sort of 18 models. So technically I've got 2 units painted for that, or 4 units painted for Lion Rampant or Dragon Rampant or any of those type of games. These are all Warlord miniatures. This is I've reached kind of critical mass here with the collection that I have at the moment. As you can see, these are all just basic infantry, standard Zulu warriors. So what I mean by critical mass is after I finish this 4th unit, I have another unit of 12 that I've got here in the bag. But these ones are armed with, I don't know if you can see through the bag, but they're armed with rifles and the shields. Now, I mean, that's standard at the time for the Zulu War. A lot of the Zulus did have rifles, which they traded with the British and stuff like that. But for what my purpose, or what I want to use them for, because I'm going to be using them in Lion Rampant in a campaign that I'm busy working on at the moment, and they don't have rifles in that, so I don't want to model any of the models with rifles at the moment. But I've run out of caliber, the Knokiris and the Assegais. I've run out of those, so this is the max I can do at the moment with these weapons. But with the rest of my Numidians coming soon, hopefully there'll be enough spares in those models that I can then remodel those 12 in that bag to have melee weapons. So, more spears and assegais, those type of things. Because assegai is effectively just a short spear. So I could trim off the back of the end of a spear, and then you can see some of them have long spears anyway. And then I think I need a couple more leader models for this. So with the Numidians, they're going to be my inverted commas African force for Lion Rampant, or in my sort of made up world of Arklash. So this will form the basic of the light infantry. So I'll have 4 units of light infantry, and then I'll have 2 units of light cavalry and 1 unit of heavy infantry, which will be the palace guard, and then a couple of elephants to max out the African theme. I'll tie them all together with the basing and the dark skin tones. So with the skin tones and the sort of loincloths and stuff, I'm giving it sort of like a dirty rag color, if you like. And I think that'll all tie it together, and it'll have an African sort of feel to it. And then if I really wanted to, I'll come around to it at a later stage if I want to. I can, for Dragon Rampant, I can add some fantastical elements to it, like Tokoloshis or Witch Doctors, those type of things. But yes, so that is my Zulus at the moment. I do actually have some in my drawer over here. As you can see, I got some British colonials. I got the first unit of 12 built up and sanded, based already. So I'm going to base them the same as the Zulus. And then I've got another roughly about a 12. I've got some infantry, and then some sort of metal character type dudes, which will have to round out the second unit, because I've only got 9 of the infantry and then these sort of engineers. But that'll make up 2 units of British, which I'll get to as well, which obviously will be used in the men who would be kings. And this combined with my Numidians will make an African force for Lion Rampant and Dragon Rampant if necessary. And then I'm pretty sure, I mean, I don't have the rule book for it, but I played a game. It's one of my most viewed videos on my channel called Congo from Studio Tomahawk. It was a really fun game, really enjoyed it, but I don't actually have anything for it. I was playing a friend's copy, so I think I might pick up a copy, and I'm sure I must be able to use these Zulus for the African tribal, dog tribal Africans for that. So there you go. That's my Zulus, and obviously I'll finish the 4th unit for next month and convert this next 12 to make up the rest of the Zulus, and then finish off the African force. All right, let's move on to the next army. Okay, so this is army number 2. This is obviously Ingrid's Halflings. As you can see, this has grown quite a bit, actually. I've added a few more things. Not everything is 100% complete yet. But before I get started to some of the excess bits, I want to say thank you to Curtis Johnson. He sent me a great little package in the post with some bits and pieces, of which one of them was this little halfling adventurer. So I've added him, painted him up, added him into my army. Thank you very much, Curtis. I really appreciate that, man. It was awesome of you. He's sent me some other bits which will be upcoming in future hobby updates, as I got some uses for them in other things coming up. But for this army, I included Derek over here, and he's the brother to Ingrid, Helga, and Beatrix, and he got kidnapped and captured in an adventure that he was embarking on, and hence the reason the Shield Maidens banded together and went to go rescue him. So that's how he fits into this. Well, what else has there been added? So the second warrior squad has now been based. So I've got two full squads of warriors. I still use them as light offensive foot, and obviously got Ingrid down here who leads one of them, and then the cavalry is still the same. But over here I've got another infantry unit. This is my braves, or my fierce foot, bellicose foot, whatever you want to call them. My barbarians, my berserkers, my little Scott Coventers. These guys obviously are awesome. They're not 100% finished yet. They still need woading as much of the army as the rest of the army does as well. And I need to finish the tartan on their skirts, or dresses, kilts, whatever you want to call it. But I love these figures. They're so cool. They are all from TT Combat. The whole army is just, and they are now a part of my halfling army. I wanted some more infantry, some more boots on the ground, but I didn't want to just do another warrior squad, and I didn't do another crossbow or ranged unit, because you'll see why in a minute. I've got another unit upcoming for that. But I loved the idea of this. I loved the barbarian William Wallace style look to them, and I just couldn't resist. So they are now my berserkers, as this is kind of a sort of a Viking-ish army with some Scott mercenaries, I guess. The bears are still there with the ranged units at the back. I don't tend to use the heavy bolt throwers anymore, because obviously with more units added to the army, it gives me more opportunities to try different units and see what works and what I want to use. And I like the punchy units, so it's not because they're bad or anything. It's just and also thematically they don't quite work. They're a heavy missile unit, but they're technically bolt throwers that are getting moved around the battlefield. But in other games, because obviously I use them for various games, so I can use them as later stage. And then of course over here, the creme de la creme, you can see that this is now doubled into 2 cockatrices. So I like the model so much, and I just did one for TT Combat, so I thought, hell, I'll do another one for me. What I was interesting about, this is the new one, what was interesting is while I was doing it, I was wondering about my base size. So I kept the war beasts. I'm not sure, I can't remember why I decided to go down this, because obviously the bears are on the same size bases. So those are lesser war beasts. These are greater war beasts. And for some reason, I think it was due to the fact that the cockatrice I was using first, the original one, um, which comes from a board game, and I kept it on the same size base that it was, but I changed the basing to fit this base. So instead of just it being a plain base that you use for a board game, I kept it the same size. And then obviously when I got the first cockatrice, I just replaced the smaller base with his base. But obviously these ones don't come on these size bases; they come on bigger bases. So now I'm deciding. I'm sort of wondering whether if I want to go to a bigger size base again, because I like standardization. I like the fact that they're the same size as the bears, but they are monster creatures, so maybe they should go on bigger bases. I haven't quite decided, but that's the sort of thing I'm thinking about. Well, anyway, this army has grown very nicely now. We've got the 2 giant cockatrices. We've got a wizard over there. We've got some ranged units at the back there. We've got some boots on the ground with 3 infantry units, of which 1 is a berserker unit. And then we've got some cavalry with Beatrix leading the goat riders. And again, I'm still wondering if I want to add more cavalry. I don't think I will, mainly due to the fact that I've got the bears and the cockatrices who are quite nippy. And then we can talk about some of the stuff that I am going to add in, which will also add some speed. So first of all, stuff that I got to do. I got the command squad for the crossbow unit to finish. I got my battle standard bearer for the halfling armies to finish. I haven't finished that yet. And then I've got these chaps. So I've got 12 of them here, but they're going to be 2 squads of 6 because they're going to be scouts. So technically I'll have 3 scout units, which should be fine because I think you can have up to 4 units of the same thing. Not that it matters that much, but these guys are going to be another ranged unit. So you can see they got bows and the cloaks. So they are called they're thief models, but I'm going to use them as scouts. 2 squads of 6, and that should round out this army pretty nicely. And I think that will be me done with this Beatrix's Viking Shield Maiden army. Not Beatrix, Ingrid. Ooh, dissension in the ranks already. Because I think I got enough of everything to sort of just work from there. I got plenty of infantry options. I got ranged options in the crossbows, the heavy crossbows, the scouts over here. Obviously, Helga herself can do a ranged attack. I've got fast-moving units in the cockatrices, the bears, and the cavalry over here. And scouts, once again, are pretty fast as well. I'm pretty sure they move 6 or 8, possibly even. I can't remember. The bellicose foot are quite quick as well. And then I've got infantry options. I've got punchy hitting units like the cockatrice and the bears and the cavalry. They all hit pretty hard. And then I've got some anvil units like the warriors. I say anvil. They're not exactly that tough, but I've got a few options here. So, and I think between all the different games I want to play, this should cover that. Of course, if I'll keep my eyes out for anything interesting. Some of the other mythical sort of type things I want to add is maybe some wolves as a lesser war beast unit, because obviously snowy wolves type thing. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head, but that is my halfling army. What do you guys think? It's grown quite a lot in the last 3 months. The fact that I've added another cockatrice is awesome. It just makes it a really huge, fantastical army by having 2 massive beasts, winged beasts. The bears were also really cool. I love the fact that I've got those crows in there as well. And now my new favorite unit, the little braves. Cool. So let's move on to the next army. And this is my medieval army, or Eobard standing troops. So as you can see, this has grown a little bit as well. Well, it depends on when last you've seen it. Actually, in fact, it has grown a bit. So what have I added? I added a 2nd unit spearman, which is over here. Obviously, I had the 1st unit Now I've painted up the second units. Quite happy with these. One of the reasons being is I wanted obviously a standing force of troops to use for Earbod and his retinues. But I've got a line rampant campaign in mind, which I'll be playing hopefully and uploading to the channel soon. Need to finish building and painting everything that I want to use for that. And then, of course, I want to maybe use this army for Oathmark. So those two together would form a unit of 20. Obviously, I'd have 4 extra, but unit of 20 spearmen. So that kind of works. You'll notice as well, there's not a lot of commands in the units, so that's something I need to work on for the future. I added one to this unit, which is just as a standard, and I want to add similar to most of the standing units. Obviously, the cavalry unit has one. I also added this light infantry unit over here. So, just to mention, to talk about these guys are just Fireforge in men-at-arms dudes. So they are pretty standard out of the box: bodies, shields, heads, weapons, etc. These guys, on the other hand, are North Star's Frostgrave soldiers. As you can see, they got a lot more padding and stuff, but only with clothes, no real armor. And they come a little less armor, heavily armored on the head side. I mean, this is one of the Frostgrave heads. So is this guy here. And so is this guy. But because I originally did, I don't know if you guys remember from last month, I did these archers. Let's zoom in a bit. So these archers over here, they're from the Frostgrave kit as well. I did a couple of head swaps with the Fireforge heads, so it ties the army in together with the rest of the standing troops, and also because I like the slightly sergeant heads. So that was quite cool. The other guys, these guys, all have slightly armored bodies with the armored heads and maybe armored sleeves, that sort of thing. Oh, that was a bad idea. But those guys, as you can see, are mostly just heavily clothed for winter. So that's why I went down the light troops route. So they are the light missile unit, whereas the crossbows are the heavy missile unit. This is obviously for Dragon Rampant, but in Lion Rampant, it's crossbows and archers. So it kind of tied in together then that this unit, who have the same bodies and slightly smaller, they got the smaller shields as opposed to the larger shields which the spearmen have. They've also got a lot more padding and clothing, but not a lot of armor. So I decided to make this a light infantry unit. So they kind of tie in together as the light side of the army, with less armor, less slightly smaller weapons. They don't have shields and big spears and shields. Oh my gosh, I'll try that again. They have smaller shields and less armor. Only hand weapons, that sort of thing. So they are light infantry for me. And I quite like it. It works pretty well. You got the 2 heavy infantry units that can form up shield walls and or children's as it is in Dragon Rampant. But this unit is obviously a faster moving sort of flanking force, scouting out ahead, and then you got the archers that are padded similar. I actually have a third unit of 12, but I have no heads or arms or weapons. So that is something that I'll work on for future. I think I want to make it into another archer unit, to be fair, because I don't know. I don't really know why. I just do. I think I'm going to make another 2 units of spears, because as I said with Oathmark, I can use them as spearmen, and then maybe in the future I'll do another light infantry unit. But I quite like the archers. So I think I'm going to use those 12 bodies as archers. So it means I need to get more archers, as I don't have the bows. I know I'm rambling a bit, yeah. But yes, so that's the unit I added. I used the light infantry unit and the heavy infantry unit. So more boots on the ground. I didn't add much more fantasy elements. The fantasy element is still only just the wizard. Because this is obviously predominantly my Lion Rampant army. And John and I are going to be hopefully continuing with our scenario events in Lion Rampant. but also this is the army I want to use in my campaign, or narrative story driven scenarios, if you like. And I'll be fighting against my African army, or my Shoshan as I call them. And then talking about that, in the back there, you've obviously got these old Warlord or War Game Factory, now with Warlord Celts. I really didn't like these models, but I did have a few more. In fact, I built up a heavy armored one, another light skirmishing one, and I got another unit like this. So I've got 3 more units that I've built up for this Celtic sort of thing. Plus, I think about 5 or 6 chariots. None of them are particularly great models, so I'm not super excited by it. But I've got it. Rather than go buy more, I'm just going to use them. I'm going to probably redo those a little bit, and they're going to form the Gallic forces to the north of my made-up world in Arkelash. So you got Eobard on the river, you've got the Shoshan to the southeast in the sort of savannah-style plains, and then you've got the Gallic sort of Celtic forces on the northwest. And I'll have a map and everything. But yeah, so that is what this medieval army looks like. So far, I've got 3 infantry units, 2 ranged units, 2 cavalry units. The Bellicose Foot is another infantry unit. And then that's pretty much it I have currently. Like I said, I got the 12 bodies, but I don't have any weapons or arms to go with them. So until I get a box of medieval archers from Fireforge, I think they will stay unbuilt for now. But I thought I might do this for them next, which is some village attacks, angry peasant mob. So I think this will work well for a peasant, sort of conscripted peasant unit or something like that for the army. The only problem I have here is this is actually for a board game, Village Attacks, which is actually up there, as you can see, next to the Fallout board game. So the problem I have here is that these are obviously for a board game, and I'm going to paint them up and use them in the board game is fine. I can use them in this game, it's fine. But it comes to the basing. So the basing for my medieval army is very basic. It's nothing fancy. It's just some, sand flocks and some leaves and shrubberies and things like that. So, but what I normally do for board games is I put them on clear bases, because especially if you're using games with map tiles, so you can see the artwork underneath. Clear bases works brilliantly that way. So, do I base them with clear bases and still use them in this army, or do I base them like the army is and not worry so much about on the board game? Hooey, I don't know. I'll cross that bridge when I get there, I think. But that is Eobard's army as it stands for September. Obviously, I said I got that unit left there, and some future projects might build onto this. So let's go on to my final bit for this episode. So finally, in my gubbins section, you can see I've got these tents painted up. These are from Romantic Games from the Terrain Crate range. They're nothing fancy. They're just, the sort of hollow plastic tents. They work perfectly well, and I quite like them. So you're asking, why did I paint these? Well, in the campaign that I've been talking about, and I'll do a full intro for the campaign at some point, there's a couple of things that I've been watching. I've been watching a lot of battle reports of late, and I kind of got some ideas that I would, mainly from the Too Fat Lardies rule sets. But one of the things I wanted to do for the campaign, instead of just playing the scenarios from the book, I wanted to have a narrative feel to it, and also have a set goals that the armies are trying to achieve. One of those is that each army will have a campsite, and so, for example, I've painted this one here in purple. You can't actually tell that, but it's purple, so it'll have a small one. And then the blue one, John's army, is blue, most predominantly blue. So I painted one in blue and then one in red, because for a future project, I might want to paint a Templar army. So keep that on the hush hush. But then also, I got these movement trays from Curtis again. Thank you very much, Curtis. These are actually going to come in very handy. So, ironically, they're too wide for Oathmark, and just to show you, I've got these trays from Renedra. So you can see here. I mean, they could be usable. It's not like they're unusable. It's just these ones are the size for Oathmark. That is, I'm not sure what for, but it's too wide. And also, I don't really, I mean, I got a few of these, which I'm going to use. And if I use it for any other type of mass rank game, I'll probably just use those because most of my figures are on rounds. But these are actually perfect for a different. So there's 15 holes in there, and I'm thinking of doing like an army morale thing for each unit, for each army. So there's a couple of objective points during each game. So one, if you lose a unit, so if a unit gets wiped out or runs away from the board, you lose an army morale point. The unit's armies will start, say, at 12 points, and then move down the army morale as the army loses key elements of the battle. One of those is capturing the campsite. You lose 3 points if you lose a captured campsite. If your general dies, you lose 2 points. For units getting killed, you lose 1 point. As soon as you reach 3 or less morale, the game is over, and the army that reached that point is defeated. So this is going to be my army morale tracker. He very nicely sent me 3. So one for each of the campsites, which works out perfectly. And then I'll have a little figure for each army. They'll move down. I'm thinking of putting numbers in here. So I'm going to spray this in colors. So this one will be red, purple, and blue. And then the numbers in here, sort of Roman numerals maybe, or something like that. And then like army morale written on the top here or something like that. So that's something I'm going to add to that. So you got the campsites, you got these. That's really cool. It works out really well. I also, while we're talking about movement trays, I got these made up from war bases. You saw all my cavalry are based on these egg-shaped ovals. And for Oathmark, I needed some movement trays, so I picked up 2 just to see how it works so far. So I could obviously have 2 deep or singles, and they work perfectly fine. They actually came with the movement tray, the ovals in there for me to base my cavalry on, and I am really happy with that. So overall, I've got cavalry, I've got infantry, and also it could be small infantry or ranged units if you like, but my movement trays for Oathmark. So things are coming along nicely. I've also got a map which I've been working on from the Planetary Empire tiles. Hang on, I'll go get it quickly. So I said Planetary Empire, I meant Mighty Empires. This is the old Games Workshop little plastic hexagon tiles. I think this will work out quite well. I kind of this is roughly put together so far at the moment, so don't read too much into it. And I just pulled it out of the loft the other day, so it's all lots of dust and stuff on. But the idea behind it is that obviously you've got this river running across there into the sea. This will be Eobard's fortress over here with these surrounding cities, and then to the right down here on the southeast is where the Shosham are, behind this mountain in the savannah areas over here. And then to the left down here, this is where the Gallic tribes, the Celtic tribes, will be living. So this is kind of the Arcalash map that I'm fabricating. It's all narrative, just narrative made up for my own purposes. And what I'm going to do is paint this up, make the gubbins all nice, get some flags for conquered areas, and then when we play the campaign, move along the map, capturing vital areas like the fortress, the mines, etc. So yeah, and then obviously you heard how I'm going to track victory conditions with the army morale thing, using these as the army morale trackers. Got campsites that I'm working on, building up the armies. So there we go. That's all I got to show you this month. So sorry it's been such a long video, but there's so much stuff that I've been working on, and I'm really excited to get all the stuff to the table and play some games and enjoy it with my friends and with you guys. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. And of course, if you want, I know I normally don't advertise this, but if you want to see some of the commissions I've been working on and the different armies and figures I've been painting for folks and companies, then follow the link in the description below to my Facebook page, and you can check out all that stuff there. So thank you very much, guys. See you again next month.